So, guys, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend this webinar. It's going to be hosted by myself, Ovik Bhai, and Casey. So, for those of you in the call who's not aware of Casey joined our team very recently, and unfortunately, before he could get acquainted with everyone, the world got hit by a pandemic. So let me do so let me do some introductions. Casey is a key problem solver at WebAble Digital, and he'll be hosting this webinar session along with us with a session how brands can rise above the Corona challenge. So just to get started, quick introduction about myself, about all three of us actually. So I'm Shada. I'm one of the directors at WebAble Digital, and I'll be talking about mostly towards the later of the talks about how we want to plan for the current situation from a digital sales perspective. So the idea is how we can design funnels, how we can connect with our audiences, what kind of support can a brand actually do to help its audience survive this current situation. So Casey, over to you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Casey. I know some of you, I don't know most of you. I'm sure in the coming days we'll get to meet personally over a cup of coffee in better times. I thought we'll take this opportunity to talk about a little bit about what's happening around us, because this thing has caught us all pretty much unaware. And we're all trying to cope with this. Yesterday I had this funny experience. I was directing to Shadab and Obik. The first time in my life, I stood in a line to buy bread. জীবনে বিশ্বাস করিনি, ভাবিনি যে পাউরুটি কিনতে আমাকে লাইনে দাঁড়াতে হবে। So I stood in a line, and the loaves of breads were rationed. I got my hand on 2 loaves of breads, and we'll have to make do with that till the next line starts. That's a funny world we live in. That's a strange world, and we all have our own coping mechanism. Somebody said that people are cooking, somebody is exercising some other passion. So the world is moving in a very, very different way, and one of the ways is very physical, very visible right now. We are all working from home. Largely we're working from home. That's also a very new way of living. Nothing different for brands. The brands are also in the same situation, and brands are also living beings. And brands are also facing the brand that most of you know, and true for everybody around the world, that manufacturing, production, sales, supply chain, distribution is very, very severely impacted. If you're not a virtual brand, if you're not like one of the social medias or a mobile phone operator or an ISP, you are impacted. You are impacted pretty badly. And one of the realities staring at us at the face, in our face, is business losses. That countered with the fact that we need to stay in. We need to stay in to stay alive. We need to stay in to stay well. We need to stay in to basically for us and for our loved ones, for everybody else, the community. So that's the crossroad we're in. And the question is, what should I just to give you a little taste of what's going on. At some estimate, Indian economy will regress by 8 years once this lockdown is lifted, if it's lifted. I'll let that sink in. 8 years. That may sound like a huge figure, but if you look at the size of economy, even a 3-year setback is a huge setback. It's interesting. It's happening around the world. Some people are waking up late. Some people are waking up early. I spoke to my cousin in Sweden. No lockdown announced, but around them, Norway, Denmark saw lockdown. I spoke to my friends in Africa. Some has been locked down, some has not been locked down. So, people are also being very slow in reacting to this, because we have never seen something. It's a complete unknown to us. And I just realized that, death is nothing new. There has been deaths all around us, and people die at a very higher rate than what has been happening with COVID in the last 3 months. What we're really scared of is the unknown. It's not the death rate that scares, it's the unknown that scares us. It's the unknown of the business realities of our life that is scaring us. And that's how brands are reacting. It's natural for us to think about the business losses, etc., etc. But what can we do is the question, because we really can't put feet on the street. Nowhere. There are some interesting stuff happening in the digital landscape in India. Some of the big brands are actually seriously increasing their digital spending just to stay relevant with the consumers. It's a gentleman who I respect a lot, Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director of Unilever, Hindustan Unilever in India, has said something very, very poignant. He said that yes, thanks to COVID, the economy will take a severe hit. There will be impact. There will be monetary and fiscal implications. But one of the biggest implications that we foresee and we will see going forward is the hit that the consumer confidence will take. The consumer is not confident today. The consumer is thinking 5 times before taking a decision. The consumer is thinking 5 times before depleting their resources, before employing, before spending money, because I don't know where the next money is coming from. I don't know where the next loaf of bread is coming from. I don't know where I'll get my next dozen of eggs from. We are going back to the very, very basics of our existence. And I don't think we're used to it. I don't think brands are used to it in this hyper informative world when we are very used to having everything at at the touch of a finger. This isolation is causing us to really introspect. And so then the question also remains like, no, what should brands do? What must brands do? I think you guys all know this. It's no secret that brands are anchors in everyone's lives. Uh, but right now, their anchors are missing. You can't go out and be at your favorite cafe, which is a favorite brand. You're probably not receiving a favorite newspaper, which is a favorite brand. Right now, loyalty is at stake. If you somehow go out to the shop and try to buy a Colgate toothpaste, you don't get a Colgate toothpaste. You will buy a toothpaste. Forget the brand. We're going back to commodities. That's what's happening to us. Our preferences are thrown out of the window. Our preferences do not matter. Commodities matter. Essentials will do well. Essentials will survive because people will still go out to buy their normal groceries, their staples. But if you go a little beyond staples, what happens then? What happens to fashion? What happens to accessories? What happens to sports? What happens to entertainment? Entertainment is still online, but what happens to physical entertainment? The museums, the parks, not there. What brands are doing around the world is very, very interesting. Brands are actually right now striving even more, even stronger to connect with consumers. How are they connecting with consumers? You can't do a sales offer anymore. You can do a sales offer, but how are you going to deliver it? Logistics is impacted also. Brands are sending relevant messages. Brands are sending messages of safety and security to consumers. Brands are sending messages to consumers that this too shall pass and we shall see better times when we did. But till that time, please be safe. It's imperative to be safe for all of us. It's very, very imperative to be safe, to be able to enjoy the future. And I'm sure, human race has seen through many, many debacles. I'm sure human has seen through this debacle also. There is no doubt about that. But at the same time, the human beings we are as we are, we need reassurance. And the brands are in the best position to reassure them. While on one hand, we keep scores of affected people and deaths and stuff like that, brands need to come and step up and speak the brand's language and tell people how to rediscover yourself. What do you do in a branded way? If you're a brand selling physical goods, what are the relevant messages you can send across to your consumers that reassures them, that makes them feel that no, it's okay. This brand is with me. This brand understands me. This brand is understanding my problem. This brand is understanding my situation right now and sending me the right content, the right message, seeding me the right seed of hope, which is very, very needed right now. The stories of things like a life boy slashing the hand sanitizer prices is a great message. The story of Godrej, I just read it today. Godrej in Bangladesh was planning to ramp up their production of hand sanitizer, but they couldn't import stuff from India. So they innovated, they created stuff with whatever is available, but they're ramping up because it's a necessity today. So these are the great messages that the brand can send across. And the other thing, this downtime might be utilized for a brand. So look at the systems that are in place. Every brand has loose ends. This is a great time for a brand to come together, to look inward and fix those loose ends. Create systems that will be robust in the future. Look at the future, plan ahead of time. Right now, I know Ramadan is around the corner, Eid is around. In fact, we are talking on a very, very significant day. Tonight is a night of reckoning, Shab-e Barat. And I certainly hope people will stay home and pray and not go out and pray. But it's a time of reckoning. It is the night of reckoning. And it will do good. Brands will do good to look ahead to the scenarios that can be. What we can do is, what we can see is there will be two scenarios unfolding. One is the lockdowns taken up. Life goes back to normal, and people indulge in spending again. People start earning. People start doing their life. This is the most positive scenario so far. Brand will have to plan for that. Brand cannot sit idle. Brands will have to plan for that. Brands will have to plan for their. Then how do you, given that time, how do you reach your products to the consumers? How do you reach your brand to the consumers? What do you tell the consumer? What are the campaigns that you will run? It's one thing the brand will think, talk about, engage with, and seed. The other reality that might hit us is lockdown is not different, not taken away. Lockdown remains. What does a brand do? The brand must steady itself, brand must ready itself and steady itself to face that as well. The brand cannot assume that everything will be fine. Everything will be fine in the long run, yes, but what is the long run is anybody's guess. So a good brand should look at two things right now. One, immediately, what do I do? Is something that should look at. What it should do is look at its own systems in place, tighten the loose ends, make things ready, keep plans ready, plan assiduously, keep plans ready as and when things start getting normal, activate plans. On the other hand, also start seeding messages, give messages to consumers, don't lose your consumers, support your consumers, tell them that, it's okay, we are all in it together. But there are these things you can do to keep yourself occupied, to stay at home. This is how the brand will speak. Every brand is own language, not one size would fit all. So every brand would speak a different language. I think that's one game that we need to up very, very quickly, that every brand needs to come together and start talking that language to their consumers. Be it a footwear brand, be it a home building brand, be it a fashion accessory brand, be it a sports good brand, whatever be it may be. Even an essential brand would speak a different language today. What is far more important today is staples. So the people who are selling staples like rice and pulses and wheat and cooking oil and salt would have to speak a whole different language. Right now, the competitive edge will not be there. The world would be commoditized for the time being. The only way to break that commodity effect is to speak your brand language, because people right now will be looking for commodities. Only the brand who are talking the brand language, reassuring people, sending positive messages, keep their consumers engaged online, would be the good brands going forward. Obhik, Shada, you want to add anything to this?
Sure.
So
yeah, this rings a lot of bells. It's time for brands to remain relevant, because there is not much sales that is happening. Therefore, we have to figure out ways to remain relevant, and the best way to be relevant is to show empathy to the customers, to share that they understand and they feel the same pain, and to let them know that they are there. One interesting strategy that I have found,
internally also.
Yeah, internally also, right. So one interesting quote from a favorite marketer that I've came across past week is that brands who are most affected by the COVID-19 should over communicate at the moment rather than under communicate. That is something that made me think. So just to make a quick review of which industry has been hit hard and which ones not. Some of the industries are actually benefiting, are doing well during this. So some industries which have been hit pretty badly are travel industry, events. By travel, I mean like air travel, transportation, hotels, tourism, travel agencies, all of that. And then there are events, the huge events industry that has been almost shut down. And then there is retail. Because of the lockdown, typical retail store shopping is off the books. Only groceries and essentials are on. But interestingly, industries like online grocery delivery, online food delivery service, web conferencing, video games, and entertainment, digital entertainment has been on the rise. I was looking at traffic, Bangladesh and global traffic data. Some interesting observations that I found in the past couple of weeks is, again, no-brainer. Traffic has been 30 to 50% traffic has been reduced in industries, in travel and hotel and car rental and whatnot. But there has been a 12% spike in government websites, services provided by all governments, and e-commerce and food and drinks industries are getting lots of traffic. Another interesting observation is organic traffic is on the rise. People are searching a lot more. People are searching about the COVID-19 solutions, masks, hand sanitizers and whatnot. But during this time, paid media on Google has not necessarily been working really well. So in terms of CTRs, conversions are quite low. So these are some of the insights from a traffic end. Another interesting shift, which might be surprising to many of us, especially to a country like Bangladesh, is the usage, the increase in the traffic has been more on the desktop side. So three popular websites like Facebook has experienced 27% increase. Netflix has experienced 16% increase, and YouTube has 15%. So 27, 16, and 15% increase for Facebook, Netflix, and YouTube on desktop. But on their app, on their mobile app, Facebook has only 1% increase in usage. Netflix has 0.3%. That's like less than nothing. And YouTube app on mobile has actually faced a drop of 4.5%. So broadly speaking, when people can stay home, people are using bigger screens, desktop or TVs and whatnot. So I'll share more insights further down the session. So I will give the mic to Shadab.
Awesome. So guys, just for a quick reminder, you can ask your questions in the chat section. You will see the chat box in the bottom corner, in the bottom part of your screen. Feel free to ask your questions there. We will have a Q&A session towards the end of this talk where any one of us will try to brainstorm the situation and try to give an answer. So to summarize what Casey has said, we are definitely in a position where we have to deal with the unknown, and at the same time, we are in a position where we have to be proactive, to quote Opibhaya and to quote some of the larger in the marketing community at large. While we don't know what's going to happen in the future, there is two possible scenarios. Either the lockdown will be lifted or the lockdown will not be lifted. However, we can't control how that might pan out, but what we can control is, as a brand, we can stay relevant. We have to maintain that top of mind awareness by connecting with the one thing that people will relate to at the moment is their own security, is their own livelihood. So we have to find, like Casey said, we have to find that tonality in the brand and figure out a way to stay relevant with our audience. In this time, doing any sort of, say, promotional or sales related activity, even apart from the logistical point of view, it's not really good for your audience. It's not going to work. It's not going to scale. It's just a bad idea at this point. But keeping it forward, I just got a statistic that says that during Pohela Boishakh, collectively, businesses will lose out about 5,000 crore worth of transactions in the economy. So I'm talking about travel, hospitality, small businesses, restaurants. collectively, the Poila Boishak event, economically, the economic value of that event is about 5,000 crores. So sustaining that loss is going to be an incredible, difficult thing for the smaller businesses to sustain. So while we don't know what the future is going to be like, what we can control is what we do in light of this situation. So I have some simple tricks that I think brands should consider and keep in mind, given the uncertainty of the future going forward. So for example, the number one thing we need to do is plan for our online sales campaign. So now, while I realize that online sales is not something we can do right now, but we can plan for it so that at much por ho, but do much por ho, whenever we are ready to go live with the campaign, we should be prepared. Our branch and our internal teams should be agile enough to launch the campaign when necessary, but we have to start the planning process now. If we have that similar, if we just try to give that brief overnight and want to go live with the campaign in less than 24 hours, obviously the results are not going to be the best. And given how communication or communicating to the mass public is extra sensitive right now in the digital space, we have to start that planning process. So ওই জায়গাটা থেকে I think a very important component of that planning process হচ্ছে যে we need to appreciate how important direct response marketing is going to be further down the line. So Facebook and normally when we try to do a sales driven campaign, we put together a creative or a series of creatives, and then we try to communicate that to our audience via these digital platforms. And like Ovib has said, like paid advertising is not going to get you the best conversions right now, but direct response, one-on-one communication is going to be much more effective because people are uncertain and they want someone to come to them and give them contextually relevant answers. They don't want to see a generic offer for themselves on Facebook, click, buy. That journey has sort of changed. People, like I said, people are standing in line to buy bread. Like, no, that was not the typical journey for someone who wanted to buy bread 1 or 2 months back. So to address that change in the customer journey, we have to incorporate a more direct approach. So ওইটাকে মাথায় রেখে we need to consider or factor in more aggressively building together our audience lists. Now I know এখানে অনেকগুলো ব্র্যান্ড আছে, আপনারা different modalityতে কাজ করেন, কেউ distribution, কেউ online, কেউ combination of both. But I think in all situations we need to sit down and think about আমাদের অডিয়েন্সের লিস্ট আমরা কোত্থেকে পেতে পারি। আমাদের ফেসবুক পেজ বলেন, ওখানে ডেফিনেটলি একটা বেজ আছে। আমাদের কাস্টমারদের ইমেল লিস্ট ডেফিনেটলি ইজ অ্যানাদার বেজ। আমাদের কাস্টমারদের কালেকশন অফ ফোন নাম্বারস ইজ ডেফিনেটলি অ্যান ইম্পর্টেন্ট বেজ। আমাদের ওয়েবসাইটে যে ট্রাফিকটা আমরা ড্রাইভ করছি and the remarketing pixel installed over there is definitely a very important asset. So for example, to build that Facebook audience, that retargeting audience, one thing we can do, like AC said, like Ovin Paris said, we have to be relevant and we can make contextually relevant communication that's aligned with, say, the COVID situation. So as opposed to doing a post on Facebook, maybe we should also consider doing some sort of website-based activation as well. Because if we can drive traffic to the website, we will be able to reach those audiences via paid advertising further down when we do launch our digital sales campaigns. And these assets, I cannot stress enough how important that is right now, because reaching your audience over email, reaching your audience over text messaging, reaching your audience over Facebook Messenger, and reaching them over the typical ad platforms like Google, like Facebook, like YouTube, is going to be incredibly more meaningful and impactful for your business if you can have these assets sorted out right now. So another thing we want to talk about is that, number one, we have to put together these audience assets, because we cannot rely on paid platforms to do that job for us. We have to organize these audience assets. And once that is figured out, we have to think about what is our offer going to be. Amra ki rokom communication korbo ba amra ki rokom sales campaign 1 মাস পর 2 মাস পর 3 মাস পর drive করার চিন্তা ভাবনা করতে পারি। So ওই জিনিসগুলোর জন্য some things that we should keep in mind হচ্ছে যে discounts বা sales offers is definitely going to be more impactful for this audience because people will not have their jobs, people might not have their jobs, people might not have their Eid bonuses, people might be just generally more cautious about how they spend their cash in the upcoming months. So ওই জায়গাটা থেকে discount driven communication or sales driven communication, we can basically estimate that that sort of communication will resonate more with that target audience. এর পাশাপাশি cashback offers, so partnerships with the financial services like Bcash and UPay, এই জিনিসগুলো might also add a lot of value to their audience if they feel that with the cashback offers they are not they're getting something extra from making that purchase with your brand. That is also something that we should consider. And at the same time, when you have that cashback offer with Bcash or you have that cashback offer with UPay, there is also some cross promotions that happen. For example, Bcash might share a post from their Facebook page, or UPay might share a post from their Facebook page and give push notifications on their mobile users. So ওই জায়গাটা থেকে কিছু cross promotioner সুযোগ থাকে, which is ultimately very important for when you're trying to get those sales numbers up. And last but not least, depending on the ticket size of what you're trying to sell, if it's a low ticket item, this last point might not apply to you. But if it's a high ticket item, if it's above, say, আপনার average basket size যদি say 5,000 টাকার বেশি হয়ে যায়, you should definitely consider offering EMI payments as well. Remember, your audience is strapped for cash. They are going to be very risk averse and might think thrice about making a purchase decision. So ওই জায়গা থেকে the more friction you can reduce, the more options that you can take away by giving EMIs, by giving cashbacks, by giving sales or discounts on their purchases is definitely going to make it more easier. So just to summarize, let's plan for our sales campaign. Let's organize our audience lists. So website pixel থাকাটা জরুরি, email list থাকাটা জরুরি, phone number list থাকাটা জরুরি, আমাদের messenger থাকে if you are using messenger bots, then ওইটাকে রাখা জরুরি, because building this list, building this audience database is going to be a make or break factor irrespective of whatever else that happens. And then ultimately making sure that your offer is really good, keeping in mind that audiences are going to be more risk averse. So having that EMI option, if you're selling high ticket items, having cashback offers, having discounts, that can also be very important for your bottom of the funnel conversions during this incredibly difficult time. So very surprisingly, that pretty much concludes my session at exactly 40 minutes. আমরা আপনাদের কাছ থেকে 1 ঘন্টা সময় চেয়ে নিয়েছিলাম. So we have presented our material, and for the rest of the 20 minutes we'll basically be taking questions. So I can also already see some questions having come in on the chat. Okay, I think we can get to some of these questions and give them answers. So নিজেই question করছেন, আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে.
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure, Casey, go for it.
Yeah. So the question is basically that you're asking that should all communication be COVID-19 related or not for the brands to remain relevant? No, I didn't mean that. I meant that COVID-19 is an unavoidable thing that is happening to us. We should keep that in mind. And we should realize that in this situation, there is a certain way that your consumer is behaving. The biggest behavior, they're staying home. And what can your brand tell that person to make that journey a little easier, to make that stay a little easier? I'll take an example. If you're a footwear brand and you know that you can't put your feet on the street, are there within the home walking tips that you can give? Because staying healthy is also of paramount importance. That's just one example. There are many such examples that comes to mind. So basically, keep the situation in mind. Keeping the situation in mind, what can a brand tell their consumers which will A, reassure them, B, also can make their life a little easier? Can the brand suggest some in-home hacks? Can the brand suggest some hacks of cleaning the home or cooking or doing your work in a faster way? That's what I meant.
Okay, following that, we have a question from Zia Bhai, which is that online learning sites have also been getting increased traffic. The demand will increase day by day. how WebAble can support to develop online learning slash training sites to academic institutes. Zia Bhai, I think I would like to like quote organic is basically the name of the game right now. People will search for, people will have a higher intent of, say, consuming learning-based material. So যেসব online websites গুলো আছে, they need to really step up their online content game. They need to step up their search engine optimization, because people are going to search and people will go to the websites that show up in those search results. So আপনাদের যে নিশ মার্কেট আছে বা আপনাদের যে ট্রেনিং কন্টেন্ট আছে, ওইটার জন্য রেলেভেন্ট কিওয়ার্ডস এর জন্য backlinking, search engine optimization, I feel that those things is something that we could potentially do, or we would potentially recommend to websites to get more traffic down the road, because it's normally like a seesaw effect. Search engine optimization normally takes some time to kick in as you start ranking for such keywords. But এখন যেটা হচ্ছে, because of this unnatural boost in search volume, websites that provide quality content that will get ranked faster. So ওই জায়গাটা থেকে is where we really see the maximum arbitrage. The maximum source of traffic would probably come from search. And search থেকে, like historically speaking, conversions from, say, to customers is generally higher from search traffic, because those people have higher intent, as opposed to someone who came from, say, a Facebook advertising or like YouTube. Generally, intent actually এই জায়গাটা থেকে খুব it's very important. I hope that answers your question.
So to sort of build on the search situation, I wanted to share some data here. So if you could see my screen, so I have this search data about coronavirus compared to hand sanitizer and then face mask. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, right? We can see your screen.
So coronavirus যে সার্চটা, এটা হচ্ছে গত সপ্তাহের সার্চ, and it is definitely much higher. But you see, hand sanitizer search is pretty high, so is কি বলা যায়, compared to that, mask is not getting that much traction. Interesting ব্যাপার হচ্ছে, let me show you a comparison. So before that, this is the overall most searched terms in Bangladesh in the 2019. Bangladesh versus India was the most popular, তারপরে ClickBuzz and whatnot, আর individual হিসাবে others ছিল. So let me show you an interesting comparison. যে গত বছরের মোস্ট সার্চ টার্মের তুলনায় গত 2 সপ্তাহে করোনা ভাইরাসের সার্চ টার্মের comparison. So this is the chart. So you see, this is where it peaked. So this is an index, definitely. For every 100 coronavirus search that has happened in the past few weeks, last year the highest searched keyword, Bangladesh versus India, was only 49. So people are at the moment searching a lot. People are searching a lot. And I think search is a place where we could actually put our brands out there with a strategy where we are offering something. We are offering something of value to the customer, because people are worried. If you have built, let's say, a platform or a bot that could show people their symptoms or give people solutions around certain problems that they currently face, that could be a great way to drive traffic to your site. That is a place where your brand can come in.
Definitely, yeah. So moving on to Nafis Salman, any projections or speculation on how this event will leave a lasting impact on digital content content consumption behavior? Oliver, do you want to take this one?
Sorry, আরেকবার বলবো আমার।
Any projection / speculation on how this event will leave a lasting impact on digital content consumption / content consumption behavior?
Right. So first thing হচ্ছে যে this has given a big rise to e-commerce, online deliveries, grocery deliveries. So broadly speaking, e-commerce category. So this behavior, I believe, is going to continue, because after this, coronavirus is going to make people more conscious, more aware. People are generally going to be more worried about their hygiene and their health, their immunity. So I see that people যে আমাদের যে পারচেজ যে সাইকেলটা বলি বা এটাকে কি বলি যে পারচেজিং ফানেলটা, এটাতে audience would have more control. People are going to do more research about things before they buy it. For example, industries like any industry which is promoting health, immunity system boost korbe by good food, এই জিনিসটার সার্চ বেড়ে যাবে। অনলাইন লার্নিং, অনলাইন ট্রেনিং, প্লাস হচ্ছে or video conferencing, all of these things, online education is going to be on the rise. সো ওই জায়গাটাতে ডিজিটাল কন্টেন্টের একটা ভালো অপরচুনিটি আছে। আরো অপরচুনিটি আছে ডিজিটাল সার্ভেইলেন্স। After this, governments across the world as well as private institutions are going to invest a lot more on digital surveillance, because this pandemic, for good reason or bad reason, is going to increase the amount of public surveillance of by the government. Jeta private companies will eventually build these softwares. So surveillance thaka manei hocche more data from Google and Facebook and other digital platforms, which would mean more intelligent advertising. People, so basically advertising algorithms are going to know human beings much better. Worst case scenario jodi boli, tahole people might even volunteer to have chips built into their body so that they can themselves know je tar coronavirus বা অন্য কোনো ধরনের future disease হচ্ছে কিনা. So these are some of the trends that is going to go. I believe that e-commerce, online webinars, online learning, video conferencing, these things are going to be on the rise. From a digital consumption, content consumption point of view, again, people are going to take more control. TV যেমন ধরেন, we don't really get a choice. TV তে আমরা কি দেখবো, but Netflix, YouTube, these things are going to be on the rise. So recent time যেটা হচ্ছে যে long form content, video content, deeper content are actually viewed more by people.
Right. I also got a lot of questions via PM, so let me get back to a couple of them. So a lot of advertisers are in a situation. So a lot of advertisers are in a situation where they had upcoming product launches, where they had a different plan going out. There are a lot of advertisers right now, যাদের জন্য digital sales একটু difficult because they don't have an e-commerce platform. So this response is basically directed towards you guys. So এখন right now, thing is we had a product launch planned and we had a different idea in terms of how we will engage people, how we will engage influencers, that it's probably going to have a very glamorous event. So এখন the reality is the situation has changed so drastically that your audience will probably resonate with you more if you are presenting a product or launching a product from your bedroom as opposed to a fancy stage, right? The audience will probably appreciate a brand who's trying to do business while maintaining social distancing and and is practicing quarantine. So right now, the glitz and glamour that's typically associated with product launches might not be the biggest priority. If you want to plan a product launch is in this situation, I don't feel that having a website is mandatory. I think that Bangladesh has a very thriving e-commerce scenario. I think it's possible to get orders via Facebook Messenger. I think it's possible to get orders from Facebook comments. I also think it's a lot of manual intervention in this case by community managers is possible to drive online sales for your product or service. Trying to develop an e-commerce site in this kind of situation is not going to be the best use of your time. Your time is probably going to be better utilized if you focused on driving more conversation about your product when you eventually do that digital sales campaign.
Right. So I have another question from Farhan Bhai. It's a long one. So he mentioned that while it may not be it's quite relevant for brands and obvious that they need to communicate. For example, many have been, so he's asking how many of us have seen communications for hand sanitizers, right? Or like Jamuna in our lifetimes. So for many brands, he feels that this is a good time to engage employees, conduct employee development programs, do more online trainings and courses and etc. And they at HMD their company are doing similar stuff like interactive activities, planning sessions, review, digital trainings, D2D planning service, and whatnot. So that is a very, very interesting thing to see.
Yeah, I
And it's
think
also,
the idea of placing products in like pharmaceuticals, etc. I think that's the sort of out of the box thinking that we need in this situation.
right. Farhan Bhai also expressed his surprise the DC Jamalpur was more popular than here. So Jaidat has another question. Since Facebook is blocking content regarding COVID-19, how can we deal with this? What if an FMCG can't afford an e-commerce platform, and how can we help them? So, and I will take the advertising answer. So COVID-19 এর কারণে শুরুতে Facebook panicked and stopped all ads which were related to COVID-19 or coronavirus, mainly because some people were trying to profit by selling masks and hand sanitizers, which may not be deemed ethically by Facebook. But recently, আমাদের ক্ষেত্রে আমি বলতে পারবো experience we have gotten in touch with Facebook team and we have slowly started getting pre-approvals for ads that we are creating. So this is, so COVID-19 নিয়ে যদি আমরা অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চাই আসলে আমাদের কারেন্ট সিস্টেমে আমরা ম্যানুয়ালি অ্যাডগুলো দেই, ওগুলো প্রি অ্যাপ্রুভড হওয়ার পর তারপর ওটা অ্যাডসে অ্যাকচুয়ালি লাইভ যায়। সো ইট উড টেক ফেসবুকের কথা অনুযায়ী 48 to 72 আওয়ার্স। সো টিপিক্যালি আমরা যে 5 মিনিটে ফেসবুক অ্যাড দিয়ে ফেলতাম সেই জিনিসটা এখন বন্ধ হচ্ছে। আমি নিজে কিছু অ্যাড রান করেছি। ফেসবুক রিসেন্টলি started a representative office in Bangladesh, যাদের সাথে আমরা রিসেন্টলি কথা বললাম। This is something that we have discussed. It's not smooth yet, but I think slowly over time it's going to be done. Also, if your page is verified, this helps a lot for ads not being blocked, because Facebook এর আপাতত blanket approach হচ্ছে anything related to these keywords they just block it, even if your ad is not a bad thing. So that's how they are working. আচ্ছা, এখন সাদাব তুমি একটু দেখো যে what if an FMCG brand can't afford an e-commerce right now তো সময়ে, so what can we do, what can be done?
I think the simplest, to be honest, the simplest implementation of an online sales channel without e-commerce would be to use your Facebook page. So there's the Facebook shop feature that you can utilize. You can also have the online ordering feature inside a messenger chatbot where people can come in, they can add products to cart, and they can check out by making online payments, COD. We have our own chatbot platform that's called Chatleaks, and we're trying to integrate with logistics providers like eCourier so that brands have that ability to rapidly upload their own products, their own prices, and then customers can and we can integrate with eCourier to handle the logistics. So that can be like a very rapid deployment of online sales system for a new brand. That's one way to look at it. And so from that, moving on, I think Sunny also has a similar question, which is related to automobiles. Do you have anything to add before you move on?
I had something to add. So e-commerce থেকে তো করা is difficult, but Bangladeshi people are more comfortable with Facebook. So I think what Pathao has done with their tongue, Pathao tongue for Mina Bazar, Shopno and whatnot, is something that can be easily replicated through a chatbot. Let's say if you're an FMCG, you have a list of 50 products. At a chatbot through there, you can just bring in that Pathao UI UX. I want 5 units of this product and that product, and then there will be a total summation. We can take people can actually check out, and then it will be connected to a delivery company like eCourier or Pathao or someone. So that is something that can be quickly done, probably within a week's time. That could be a nice pivot for FMCG companies struggling with distribution.
Right.
I have a question here about the automobile industry. I think Ovik, you asked this question.
No, I think for some reason, a lot of our participants are joining with Ovik Bhai's name. I don't know how that happened, but they think it's Sunny who's asking.
Okay, an automobile question. This is a very interesting question, and it resonates with me because it takes me back to the purpose of a brand. Every brand has a purpose. Every automobile brand has a purpose. And we need to go back to the purpose and see, if I can't sell a product, if I can't sell the automobile, how else can I fulfill the purpose in the consumer? What else can I do online that will fulfill that purpose? If the purpose is to provide the luxury, what are the luxury tips that we can give it to the consumers? If the purpose is to provide functionality, what are the functionality tips that I can give? What are the functionality contents that I can provide to the consumers online is somewhere. I think we need to go back to the purpose of the brand for every single brand and dearly latch onto that and really exploit that in today's day and age. But that's what's going to see us through. Every brand's purpose is going to see us through.
To add to that, I think that when you have, if you think about your top of the funnel communication, which is more specific to your branding language and how you want to stay relevant during this time. And so the thing is that, but at the end of the day, you still need an objective for that sort of communication. And I think a good way to think about it is that have very top level communication that's relevant to people in this circumstance. And then you have multiple follow-up contents or posts, or you can even engage relevant influencers in your industry to kind of share that content and sort of resonate with that as well. So you kind of narrow down to a more targeted audience. And then at the bottom of the funnel, the objective should be to get leads, because people are never going to buy, motorcycles or cars online. But what you can do is that you can ask them to like book test drives. You can ask them to schedule appointments for your showroom when they do open. So I think that can be one objective basis of going about.
Right. So there is a question from Mr. Imtiaz Alom. What type of communication can be done by restaurants during this pandemic? I think I'll take it from personal experience. I think we all have been struggling with food, and there are days where we don't feel like cooking or it's just hard. So I have pondered and asked a question on Facebook where I got lots of responses, and I'll try to answer this question based on that. So my main concern was if the food is going to be safe. So that's the primary concern, food is safe or beginner. And then there are two companies that, and then first day when I wanted to order online, I decided against it, ate some noodles and went by. Therefore, I have seen some communication from a friend's company, and because I know the owner, Hero Burger, and what are their naam ta ki overall? Cludio. So Cludio has shared contents on social media about their kitchen, how they're keeping it safe. They have did a small video on how their orders are being received by their team members, like ওদের kitchen থেকে বাসায় কিভাবে protection নিচ্ছে, caps, masks, gloves, everything, সবকিছু protection নিয়ে কিভাবে তারা content তাদের operations টা organize করেছে. So that gave me confidence. The other company that I recently ordered from was Alfa Catering. Again, I know the owners, and we have discussed. I have asked them in general, "Tumra kiভাবে protection নিচ্ছ and whatnot? How are you keeping us safe?" So I think communicating and demonstrating how you are keeping it safe, keeping the people, your stuff as well as the food safe, is the sort of formula here. Speaking from experience.
I'd like to add to that. I completely agree with that. Even in India, that's happening. What are the few places that are open? There is a place called Chow Man, which is very Indian Chinese place. They are not, obviously, the restaurants closed, but the delivery service is on, and their own delivery service. They haven't had any logistics yet. And I get their communication on their safety, on that sanitized way of packing the food, and how they are doing contactless payment and all that stuff. How the food will be left in front of your doorstep, and you will not come in contact with the delivery person also has been stressed, and that's incredible that they're seriously maintaining some safety standards and also social distancing norms, which gives me a lot of confidence. Know that I haven't ordered yet. Not too many places are here to order yet. So yes, I agree with you. That's the key.
So this question I think is for Casey. How should brands communicate during Ramadan if the corona situation continues? That's a big question.
Yeah, that's a very big one. I think we're all worried about that. But I don't think brands can do much in this situation. The brands will have to continue but talking in the brand language about the do's and don'ts of Ramadan. What can you do staying at home? How do you break your fast with whatever you have at home? And, stay at home, stay with your family, pray at home, do not go out, are some of the things that brands would stress. If you're a healthcare brand, talk about the nutritious value of things that you have on hand. If you're a home care brand, talk about the usefulness of cleanliness in home. But at the same time, I don't think you should expect a lot of sales. Whatever little comes through online will come through. But beyond that, it'll be very, very difficult to actually generate sales, generate revenue during this Ramadan. This Ramadan it's going to get hit one way or the other. It's going to get hit for sure.
Right. Mr. Ibrahim, I think, made a question about how we can, people are stockpiling different products, keeping Ramadan in mind. They're not bothering about the brand. Casey, like you rightly said, do you have any advice for such brands who might not be able to be, whose distribution is severely affected? Do you have any advice for a brand falling in that category?
What do you mean, stockpiling for a certain brand?
Yeah, if someone has to like buy flour, they don't really care about which brand flour it is, so they're just buying whatever is available. Correct. Right. So for a brand who's not being able to like get to those shelves in those local stores, what would your advice be?
Be present online. Be present online. Be know your consumer. Present in the consumer's psyche through online. Communicate your values very, very strongly. What do you stand for? You're not just a flour. You're not just a pulses. You're not just a rice. You stand for something beyond that. Just keep communicating that. And that's one way to keep connected with the consumer. And the consumer likes to hear these things even more in today's day and age. Be reassuring with the consumer. Give them positive vibes. Send them good tips. I think it's a very, very big thing sitting at home that people are looking for. Searches are going, I'm Obik and Shadab are much more qualified in saying these things. Searches for recipes, and there are crazy recipes. There's a recipe for yeast that's online being searched right now. Google has highlighted that. People are trying to bake bread in India, and yeast is not available. How do you make yeast at home? These kind of weird things are coming up. So, these are little things that kind of falls in the blind spot. But if you keep on telling that, how do you make whipped cream out of chola bhijano pani? That's a big thing in India right now.
Okay.
Whip it hard enough with whatever sugar, salt, seasoning. It becomes frothy and creamy, and you can replace cream with that. So there are hacks people are coming up with, and if you're an essential commodity, if you're an essential brand, you should talk about these things. These are things that will win you over.
I think no one was expecting the chola from chola to whipped cream.
He's doing it at home. I said, dude, do you have an industrial kitchen? He said, nothing. It's really easy. And he sent me, inboxed me. I was actually surprised. I want to do it myself. I'll tell you how.
I think we should keep us updated on how that experiment turns out.
Shadab, I wanted to add something to this. I think building onto the restaurant question, this is a good opportunity for brands, especially like a flour brand, to put out communication on social media about how they're taking safety measures and bringing in transparency, because it would actually help them connect more to the customers. The whole thing about empathy, the whole thing about caring about customers' concerns, I think that would make consumers ask for a particular brand. A branded ata ba moida amar dorkar, because I have seen that they are being very careful, from the factory floor to whatnot. And jotoruku para jay. Again, it can't be a production. It has to be something that is captured on mobile, maintaining social distancing and everything. And some companies are doing that. Some companies are doing.
So Mr. Rizwan Al-Islam Bhaiya asked a certain urge in many of companies to build chatbots to provide COVID-19 info, and subsequently so many agencies are now building chatbots from them. And my gut feeling is that they have not thought about the sustainability of the tool. So what do you think will be the future of these bots post COVID-19? Will they be obsolete, or the brands will continue using the bots for some other purposes for their brand? So yeah, it's definitely a trend that a lot of us saw online. So I think the best way to think about it is a chatbot is is in many ways synonymous with making a Facebook post, right? It's about as useful. So if you have a strategy figured out for that Facebook post, then it's going to be a successful campaign. So similar to that, if you have a strategy figured out for your chatbot, it's going to be a successful deployment, a useful tool. So if you don't maintain it, if you don't analyze how people are interacting with your chatbot, then it's not, obviously it's not going to be useful. And my personal take is going to be that a lot of in the post-COVID situation, maybe these bots will not be as useful and they won't be as engaging. But if we could use this opportunity to get a subscriber base over Messenger, an audience base over Messenger that we can follow up with, that we can communicate with, and ultimately then those chatbots can be a very useful tool for converting bottom of the funnel, because that's like a good use case for any brand to potentially explore. I hope that answers your question. If a brand has a plan for the chatbot in terms of how they will convert that audience down the line into customers, into sales, it's going to be a successful deployment. If they don't have that plan, then it's just something that was done in isolation without too much structured planning.
Shadab, also, I think just like e-commerce, any new technology that consumers are experiencing during COVID-19, some of these people, a lot of these people are going to get used to it. I think chatbot is one. I think e-commerce ক্ষেত্রে a lot of people are making trials, their first e-commerce purchases, or আগে হয়তো seldom করতো, এখন এটা regular করবে। চ্যাটবটটাও মানুষ I think অনেকেই এভাবে একটা এক্সপেরিমেন্ট হবে, এনে এক্সপেরিমেন্টের পর এটা আসলে বোঝা যাবে যে if it becomes mainstream. But from what it looks like, a lot of people are using chatbots nowadays to get the symptoms checked, getting lots of information and whatnot. So I think if it's done right, this is going to stay. Chatbot, conferencing, video conferencing, work from home, all of these.
So for example, one interesting case study that I can present is that I'm working with a small tech firm that's based in Vegas, in US. And for those of you who are following the international news, I think that Nevada had a very controversial election during this time in Milwaukee and in the Las Vegas states, where they had these primary elections. And they did not cancel it for this COVID-19 situation. So it was very controversial because obviously social distancing, mana jaine. So I had a tech founder reach out to me and ask me that since we can track symptoms, is there a way we can follow how many of the people who voted, say 1 week back, eventually developed COVID or coronavirus symptoms 2 weeks later? Because that could potentially be a data point based on which they can file lawsuits, they can sue the state and municipalities for hosting that election in the face of a public health crisis. So I think those use cases can vary. I think those use cases can vary from even something that's as extreme as this. It can also be as basic as just building your audience list for communication down the line. So people are getting used to it. People are using it in different ways. But I think that the very low-hanging fruit that brands can do is just collect email addresses, just collect phone numbers, and make sure that you provide some value so that you have that database building in the back end.
Right. So I have another question from Ontu. How can luxury products industries like mobile phones or expensive phones be present during this situation?
That seems like Casey's.
I have a similar question for Jadad also. Lifestyle brand, what does it do?
Right.
First and foremost question is, can you launch online? And can you sell online? If you can, fine. You will have to revise your targets. You'll have to revise your marketing plan. You have to revise the kind of investment you're putting in. And you have to divert a lot of attention to online support. Not just sales, but support. I'm time and again saying this. Sales is not the primary driver right now. Support is the primary driver. And drive a lot of traffic, create a lot of conversation online around that brand. It's probably the only way to do it right now. I've worked with Unilever for a very, very long time, and they have taught me one good lesson, that if the time is not right for a brand to launch, give it time. That's the best thing you can do to a brand. Give it a bit of time, and when the time is right, launch it. But the one thing I can tell you guys is please do not do any knee-jerk reactions. And that's the worst you can do to the brand. Think through it. If you have a capabilities which are online strong, to sell, distribute online, to deliver right now, go ahead and do it. It's fine. Just launch online. You will not have ATL support, but you will have all kinds of support you can get online. That's not a digitally. That's not a problem at all.
Also, I have an interesting example of a lifestyle brand. We are handling Apex, and they have sort of shifted their focus towards e-commerce. That we are working on making it strong. But meanwhile, they have lost out on business for Poila Boishakh, right? That's a big sales opportunity for them. But what we're doing here is we are doing this tribute campaign for all the service providers who are working during crisis, like the doctors. So there is a crowdsource campaign. It's another challenge. A lot of challenges are trending. So we built a very interesting challenge here, and it's picking up. It's been launched, I think, yesterday. So these are the kind of interventions you could make for a lifestyle brands to stay relevant, to keep engaging your customers. And I think build that brand equity when you might not be selling now, but when you start doing it, I think you are going to be selling more than probably your peers. So since no one can sell now, so I think what you can do now today is going to determine your sales volumes after this is over. And it is going to be over. It's a matter of time.
We are one day closer to normalcy.
Right.
Yeah, and also please don't lose sight of the purpose of the brand. Every brand exists for a purpose. Be true to that purpose and keep providing consumers reassurance through that purpose. It's very, very important. Purpose is not to sell a pair of shoes. The purpose is not to sell another handset. The purpose is to deliver an experience. The purpose is to talk about a certain kind of behavior. That can be delivered to many, many things. And, think about those things. Think about those avenues.
Right. Also, I have an interesting case where people are basically staying home, right? People are staying home, and people have a lot of time. And that is why you must have seen that a lot of challenges have been trending, right? So we are one of the earliest companies to have started a challenge. I think March 26th, I think we started this stay home challenge, which is completely organic. We have, I think, did not spend more than $500 to $600 on paid media. And we have partnered with celebrities and influencers to share what they are doing. This was completely an empathy campaign where we are trying to help people contextualize the fact that they can stay home and they can be productive and positive. That campaign has received around 100 submissions from celebrities and many more from normal people as well. And in the past, I think 2 weeks, right? Less than 2 weeks, it has got around 3 million video views from the submission. The submissions that people have made has received around 3 million video views, has around 1 million post engagements, and has an overall reach of around 17 million. Almost 99.99% of it organic. So people do engage when you have a bigger idea, when you're connecting with the purpose of the brand, and also you're connecting with people's context. So we found people at home, we found people are bored and anxious and frustrated, and we had a good message for them. And then all the celebrities stepped in and volunteered to participate. So that was quite an experience for us.
Great. I think we can take one more question before closing this webinar. But I think for those of you attending, a lot of questions came in regarding digital advertising and how the advertising landscape is going to shift. We'd just like to announce that WebAble is doing a series of webinars. The next one is on Saturday, the same time, April 5, stay tuned to our Facebook page, because we will circulate the links to register after this webinar, where we will be digging deep into the advertising landscape, the local ad networks. We will have panelists from other advertising network heads who will be talking about how this situation can be adapted to best suit our advertising efforts at this point. So one last question we can take is from Bartho Paul. How can we deal with products which we cannot deliver in the home, like pipes and tanks? Right now, buying these products are also luxury. What can we do to remain relevant and maintain sales? I think I'm just going to summarize what Casey has iterated before, which is that you need to discover what your brand's tonality is, what your brand's message is, and find a way to tag that with the current situation. For example, building on the UNDP example that Ovip has shared, basically people are at home, they're bored, they're frustrated, they're scared. So we basically partnered up with that number of celebrities to basically enforce the message of staying home and staying safe. And we currently, it's an abnormal situation, but associating those celebrity influencers in the campaign normalized it, which was the objective. So similarly for Apex, we tried to connect with footsteps at home. Like what can people do to what can people do at home? Can they exercise? Can they like Casey was talking about, can they do crazy cooking experiments? So you need to figure out that place where your brand has a spot in the consumer's mind and connect it with their current context and current situation. And similarly, I think from a sales objective point of view, the best thing we can do is generate leads, build your audience database, build that contact list, SMS, email, phone numbers, website pixel, building that retargeting list as well. I think that's the most tactical thing that we can do from a sales perspective, given the nature of the situation that we are in. So with that, I think I would like to invite Casey to give us some closing remarks before we conclude this webinar today.
No, it's been wonderful. I'm not surprised that we're getting similar questions from many viewers, because the concerns are very similar. My only response is, I think we need to prepare ourselves for a bit of business loss. That's for sure. We can't run away from that. But at the same time, as Ovik said, and as Shadab also pointed out, I think what we reap today, we sow tomorrow. So let's reap the seeds of positivity through our brands in the minds of the consumers, in the world of the consumers. Help them navigate through the situation. They're in also a very, very tight spot, and they don't know which way to go. They need anchors. They need people by their side. They need brands by their side. Be by their side. Stay true to your brand DNA and the brand purpose. And I suppose the rest will fall in place. There will be business loss, yes, but that's a much lower cost than human resource costs.
Awesome, great. Ovip, any last remarks?
Yeah, give me 2 minutes. I'm preparing a form where people could actually send in questions that they may have for the future webinars that we're going to do. Besides that, as we discussed, that we are going to do a session next Sunday, where we are basically doing, since digital advertising is on the rise, so we would like to hear from people in terms of how brands and marketers could use the local ad networks much better. We have ad play lined up for the first session, then we'll have Eskimi, GNR, and eventually maybe Facebook and Google as well. So I am basically posting a link to the chat section. So if you would, we are going to prepare more webinars in the future. Therefore, your questions would really help us plan this. So I've shared this link. So please fill it up if you want us to cover certain areas for our future webinars. I think that's it from our end. Please feel free to reach out to us personally. We you have our email address. So please feel free to reach out to us personally if you have any queries, concerns, anything that you'd like us to cover. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for your time. I think we have done a good job on sticking to the time. 11 minutes longer than we expected it to be.
And we avoided any major technical disasters. So cheers to Zoom. Okay, guys, thank you so much. We look forward to hearing from you and see you on the next webinar. Cheers.
Cheers.